It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Joining us now, one of our favorites, CBS Sports, Shehan Jeyarajah, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Shehan, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, and yeah, I had a lot more than 60-something people in my graduating class, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And my wife, when we got married, her brother was graduating high school, and he went to Cottonwood here in Salt Lake City, which is much, much bigger. And she's like, you want to go to graduation? I'm like, yeah, sure. That's cool. Because I was used to graduation being like 45 minutes long. We're 45 minutes and we're not even through the D's yet. And I was like, this is horrible. This sucks. I don't
That's
want
the real world, Scotty.
Yeah.
I think that my high school out down here in DFW is the second biggest single high school district in the state, so only behind Allen High School. So it was an adventure. I think we had like 800 or something in our graduating class.
Wow.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Coppell.
Okay. I'm a Plano senior guy.
Oh, look at that. Well, you guys are even bigger than us. You guys have a lot of people.
Yeah, we did even back in the day. I was just telling Scotty, I was there when it started booming, man.
Hey, so week one, is there any chance Brandon Sorsby's playing for Texas Tech? I can't imagine this works, this Hail Mary of his.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about it, but in the last 20 minutes or so, an injunction has been filed, and in it, it's interesting, right? I mean, of course, they admit to some of the stuff that has been circling out there. They admitted that he placed a handful of bets on Indiana football, which per NCAA rules would mean that his eligibility is over, that he cannot play college football anymore. But they do try to make the case that, this is him dealing with a mental health situation, that the NCAA is actually playing into this with their embracing of gambling as a financial product. Look, I mean, I think that you have to take the swing. I think you have to take the Hail Mary. I think you have to try and see what you can do. And he also kind of acknowledges in the filing that they want to have a decision before June 22nd, which would be a potential entry deadline for the supplemental draft into the NFL. So I think that they're trying to throw everything that they can at the wall. To me, though, I just can't see it, right? Like, I understand it's going to go to a likely friendly judge in Lubbock County. They're going to try to get the short-term thing done, just like we saw with Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, with Owen Heineke in Oklahoma. But it just really feels very open and shut. They have explicit rules, and if all of a sudden you're kind of trying to make exceptions for why somebody explicitly broke rules that he knew were wrong on the basis of mental health, you better have a good explanation for why he's going to be able to come back and participate in college football in the fall without this being a concern.
Looking at the schedule, and when the NFL schedule came out, I kind of dug into the Big 12 schedule, and there are a couple games again overseas that the Big 12 is involved with. TCU's playing over in Dublin on the 29th, and then the conference game between Arizona State and Kansas in London on the 19th. Are you a fan of these games over there?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag for me, right? I think that having these individual moments is okay. Like, I think that especially having like a week 0 showcase game, I don't mind that very much, right? Like, I think that the Dublin game has been a lot of fun. We've had some good results over the past couple of years. It's a good showcase, I think. I would just be a little hesitant to go a lot further than that, right? Like, I think that, for us, I mean, we all love college football, but I mean, we kind of have to think about it, too, from a consumer product perspective in Europe, right? Like, you're telling me that university students are going to play these big games and people in Germany are going to care? I mean, I don't necessarily know that that's the case, right? So I think that having one or two a year is kind of a cool, fun experience. But, like, I feel like we're pushing the envelope just a little bit. Now, I do feel a little bit differently about, the Canada, the Mexico, like sort of the more adjacent sites, because I do think that there's a little bit more potential market value there. But the Europe, Asia, Australia, some of the ones that have been posed in the past, like I just think that there is not a whole lot of value to those games.
Is there a financial, like, because I know Brett Yormark's all about the long game, and I know that they're trying to build, opportunities to make money down the line, but is there a short-term financial justification for this?
Yeah, so with the Ireland game, they definitely get a fairly significant payout for participating in that game, and in a lot of these neutral site games, even the ones that we have in the States, it is sponsorship dollars. I know that, for example, Baylor plays Auburn this year, and Auburn moved away from their home stadium to Atlanta, and they're receiving sort of NIL compensation in exchange for doing that, right? So there is short-term financial gain. And again, that's where I draw sort of this distinction between the European games versus something like Mexico, where I think that there is sort of market value potentially long term with trying to get into, the Mexico City market, some of the border towns, stuff like that. Like I think that the culture is a little bit more integrated in that way. I just don't think that you're ever going to have people in Germany looking up and being like, hey, when does West Virginia play today? I think it's a little bit of a different situation.
With spring ball now kind of in the rearview mirror, obviously all the teams with their rosters fairly set, and the Sorsby news, do you have confidence that BYU could win this conference next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for me, Texas Tech is still the favorite, but they went from like 95% favorites to like 49% favorites. And I think that BYU is right there in like the 30 to 40% range. Like they potentially could be the biggest beneficiary of this, because you look at this BYU team, they have playmakers back at every level of the field. They have the best running back in the conference in LJ Martin. They have maybe the best, arguably the best safety in the conference in Palatau Satuala. Like they have so many guys back who have a chance to break out in 2026. And that doesn't even get into Bear Bachmeier potentially with a full offseason of work taking another step. So this is a team that I think that even if Texas Tech was fully powered, would still have a chance against them. I still had them even before this in the Big 12 title game. But if Texas Tech is suddenly a little bit less of a sure thing than they were before, absolutely, BYU has a chance to have a really special season.
Who in the Big 12 do you think really helped themselves coming out of spring that we need to be talking about, but maybe we're not?
Yeah, a couple teams come to mind, right? I think that Oklahoma State was one that we expected, right? But they have imported an offense that I think has a chance to be pretty darn special. And we've heard pretty good things so far out of spring camp. I'm hoping to make it up there in the next couple of weeks and hopefully learn a little bit more as well. I think that also TCU, Jaden Craig has been a revelation at quarterback. They really feel like he has a chance to be a Sunday player if some things break right. And again, we've heard that he has been very impressive in camp to this point. I think that also I think of a team like Kansas State, where they had to rebuild a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Of course, their season really will hinge on what Avery Johnson is able to be in Colin Klein's offense, but early returns have been really good. So those are all three teams that I think could go from being, sort of mid-tier teams in the Big 12 to maybe pushing that top 3 to 5 range and maybe even sneaking their way into the Big 12 title game.
Matt Campbell did a great job at Iowa State, and he's moved on with about, I guess, the whole team and half the city, it sounds like. It seems like Penn State's going to be Ames, just in a different uniform. But how long will it take in your mind for Iowa State to kind of get back? Or is something because of their locale, it's just really going to depend on the coach?
Well, I think that with Iowa State, and they're not unique to this, but I think that they're especially this. Like, it is so much of a timeline game with them, right? Even with Matt Campbell, I mean, they had the years where they were extremely senior heavy, and they had the years where they were kind of starting from scratch. And the magical thing about Matt Campbell is that he managed to make those rebuilding seasons 7 and 8 wins. That's probably going to be tougher for, frankly, any coaching staff because, I mean, we've never really seen it at Iowa State, frankly. But I do think that when I look at the roster that Jimmy Rogers brought in, I think that he made some really smart calls in the transfer portal. Jalen Raynor's a guy at quarterback who's played a lot of football at Arkansas State. I think an undervalued player. They brought in some guys in the trenches, including Jake Taylor from Oklahoma, that I think actually again, are a little undervalued. Some of them are high upside, low downside players, but you just have to take some of those risks when you're transitioning a roster. So, I think that after they lost so much, I mean, you said half the town left. I mean, it really was pretty much the whole town.
It was the whole town.
It was the whole town went to State College, Pennsylvania. I think that they were last in the Big 12 in returning production. I think they didn't return a single starter off of last year's team. And I think that they've done a good job of building themselves back up to where, maybe competing for bowl eligibility is within sight. When you talk about them getting back to what they have been for the past decade, though, I mean, it's just going to be a 2 to 3 year process. This is always going to be a developmental program.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Rich Rodriguez has never given me a reason to cheer for him, but I've always kind of had a soft spot for Rich Rodriguez because, obviously the great West Virginia years, then he struggles at Michigan, has the issues at Arizona, and now he's back at West Virginia. For some reason, I really want this to be successful. I want him to capture a little bit of magic again. Is there any chance that happens for him?
Man, it's funny, right? Because like you said, he's not like the most cuddly of guys by any means. And he walked in and basically said, get ready to work. But I think that there is something to being unapologetically yourself, right? And I think that Rich Rodriguez has done that. I was really curious even when he came in last year, just how he'd be able to deal with this new era where guys don't have to wait 2-3 years to get on the field, where they expect to be on the field immediately. They don't want to wait to be developed the same way. And I think he's handled it pretty well so far. We've heard, they're definitely a team that we've heard some encouraging signs in the spring. They've had 150 players come through their program the past 2 years, but they've managed to hang on to some really good ones. I'm excited to see Cam Cook, last year's leading national rusher on their roster, coming over from Jacksonville State. They've got 2 quarterbacks that I'm really interested in Michael Hawkins and Scotty Fox Jr. They're a team that I think is probably more of an up-and-down team in 2026. But, we haven't had a full Morgantowning of anybody since Dana Holgerson left, frankly. They haven't beaten or competed with high-level ranked teams. I think that they're going to get somebody this year. And, again, if they're able to find a couple of freshmen and sophomores, I think that they could really have something heading into 27 and 28.
Here on the station last week, we had longtime Utah coach Ron McBride on the station, and he brought up going down to BYU and watching spring ball, watching Bear Bachmeier, and he really paused and gave Bear great compliments and really said this kid is special. I see special in him, and went on and on about him. But where do you rank Bear going into the season in terms of QBs in the Big 12?
It's interesting, right? Because I think that people approach him like he's going to have some of the limitations that he had as a freshman, when I really look at, like, this is the worst Bear Bachmeier that we're probably ever going to get, right? Like, I expect that this offseason, again, we've kind of heard they're going to work more on some of the drop back downfield passing stuff, right? I think that they're going to unleash him from the start of the season. But, like, when you look at the floor coming into the year, I mean, this is the quarterback who, threw for 2,500 yards, rushed for 600 or 700, scored 30 touchdowns. Like, that's what he did with no preparation. I think that heading into this year with, again, a lot of that roster back, with LJ Martin back, I mean, I think that there's a pathway certainly for him to be a top 3 type of quarterback in the league. I think at the top right now, it's wide open. I mean, I think that Sorsby was going to be a player who's going to compete for that top spot. I think that right at this moment, the guy who kind of starts there is Noah Fafita at Arizona. Drew Mestemaker coming to Oklahoma State, also a really good player. I mentioned Jaden Craig as a potential high upside guy. Like, there's a lot of guys who have the potential of being in that top group. I think that Bear's one of the few who deserves to start there to start the year. And again, I think that even more is potentially on the table if he takes that step as a passer.
It seems like it's been since the late 90s that Kansas had a different quarterback than what we've seen over the last 6 years. Can they get this thing righted? Because it seems like Leipold had this thing ready to go, and then it just kind of has fizzled on him.
No, I mean, this is the thing that's so surprising about Kansas, like you said, is that they just don't feel like they have an identity right now. And a lot of that is because I think their timelines got messed up because of Jalen Daniels' injuries. But I do think that they're a program that's a little bit looking for what that next spark is going to be. Now, I've heard really good things. I hear that they like Zeke Marshall, the redshirt sophomore coming in there. They think that he's somebody who has the potential to be a dual threat guy. They bring in Dylan Edwards as well at running back. So you think that the offense is probably going to be a little bit better than it's been the last 2 years. Defensively, they just haven't found a whole lot of answers the past 2 or 3 years. And I just, I think that early on, I mean, something that was pointed out to me certainly was that, a lot of the guys who were recruited by the previous staff, they did a great job of developing and kind of turning into great next-level players. They haven't necessarily done that the same way with some of the guys that they've brought on campus. They've hit in the transfer portal a little bit, but they just haven't done a good enough job of developing their own guys. I think that that's going to change. I think that's going to continue to get better, but like this is a big season for them. It's going to kind of determine, is Kansas a team that's fighting for bowl eligibility, or can they be more than that?
The Utes, obviously, with this coaching change, and we had Morgan Scalley on the show last week. Listening to him talk, he's talking about all the right things. There's always the question whether culture can survive from one coach to the other. I'm a believer that it can with Morgan because he's kind of been there every step of the way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that it can. I think that when you look at Utah, it was a Kyle Whittingham culture, but it's also a Utah culture in a lot of ways too. This is the way that this program has been for essentially 20 years at this point. There's a lot of people in that athletic department and that football program that play a role in that, not just the head coach, and many of them are still there, of course, led by Morgan Scalley. And I think that as well, like when you have a team culture that's, especially one that's built around being physical and defensive, like having some of the same leaders there is a big deal. And even bringing back some of the key players on offense, like Wayshawn Parker, like Devin Dampier, like I think that sort of stuff matters when you're transitioning eras. So I'm not all that worried, honestly, about, like you said, kind of the culture, about like the feeling of Utah football changing in any way. Now, again, talent-wise, I think that's sort of the big thing is, are they going to be able to, one, restock, and two, continue to build not just this year but in the next couple of years. But, from a team identity, roster identity, coaching identity, I don't expect any issues moving over to Morgan Scalley.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. So let's take the coaching element out of it and just focus in on personnel. Where do you think Utah stacks up right now going into this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think that they're still going to be a very good team. I certainly worry a little bit more about depth than I did last year, just because of some of the guys that they lost and guys being asked to step into bigger roles. And look, I think that regardless, if they don't lose a single guy to the portal, for example, like we're still asking a lot of questions about this offensive line, right? Because they were arguably the best in all of college football last year, and both their tackles were first-round picks. And that's not something that you can just necessarily guarantee is going to replicate itself. So I think that this is still a team that's going to be, if some things hit right, in the 9-10 win range. But again, they're going to need to grow up their trenches pretty quickly to have a chance to keep up with the very top of the Big 12.
Shehan Jeyarajah joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's an interesting situation we're dealing with right now in this landscape of college athletics and where things are at and what we're looking at. Do you believe this 2014 playoff is an opportunity for it to get better? And do you think this is it a likelihood? And are you a fan of it?
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of it, to be honest. I think that for me, there's a couple pieces of it, right? One is, go back and look at some of the teams that would have been in that 20 through 24 range over the past couple of years. Like last year, we would have been talking about 8-4 Iowa. We would have been talking about, Michigan that really looked pretty bad to end the year. We would be talking about Houston, which was a fun, encouraging team, but certainly one that I think was far behind, for example, the top 12 to 15 teams. So I think that for one, the quality of teams that would be making the playoff, I think it is notable that they are such a step below the ones that would make a 12 or even a 16 team playoff. I think the other thing too is I know that nobody really cares so much about this, but I feel like we are starting to get to a point where the schedule is just going to suck of watching the playoff, right? With a 12 team, every game is able to be a true feature game where everybody sits down and watches it together. If you're suddenly adding, even if we just jumped to 16, we'd be talking about 8 first-round games that would need to be played sometime in December. Now, if you go to 24, you're adding a whole nother round of 8 games. At a certain point, when are people just going to be these aren't even fun games? This isn't even that fun to watch. I don't even, we can talk about the selection and all that sort of stuff. As a football fan, I'd kind of be I guess I'd watch Iowa, Arizona, but why? I think that 12, frankly, has been a really good number. The only thing I think that's been a little bit of a drawback from 12 is I don't think the buys have been valuable. So I'd be okay going to 16 from that perspective. But when we start going to 24, to me, the only way that 24 makes any sense is if we're doing the 10 conference champions all get in, which obviously we're never going to do, right? And so I'm not a big fan of it. I think that, again, just as a consumer product, I think it's going to have very diminishing returns and in some ways, I think, undercut the value of what the playoff is in the first place.
What annoys you more, the college football playoff expanding or the NCAA tournament expanding?
Well, I think it's college football primarily because I think that with the NCAA tournament we kind of know hey, you know what, we're flooding the zone with games in the first place, right? For me, to be frank, I don't really watch the first the first 4 games all that much regardless. I follow them. If there's something close, maybe I'll flip it on, but Thursday's a day to me when the NCAA tournament starts. I think that with college football, it's not supposed to be like that, right? It's not supposed to be we're playing 8 games that you don't need to pay attention to. It's supposed to be eventized. So I think that while I don't love that the NCAA tournament expanded, it's less of a big deal to me than the college football playoff potentially going all the way to 24.
By the way, while we've been talking, multiple reports that the Mountain West and the Pac-12 have reached a settlement in their lawsuit over exit fees and poaching fees. Terms not announced yet, but must be filed with the court by June 2nd. So there we go. Looks
Progress.
Like that messy divorce may have finally been wrapped up. But Shehan, appreciate your time, man. As always, looking forward to catching up with you throughout the offseason.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
There you go. Shehan Jeyarajah, one of our favorites right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.